Most brands are invisible, not because they lack good products or strong intentions, but because in a crowded market, the human brain simply cannot remember everything it sees. Visibility alone does not create impact. Memory does, not because they are bad. Many businesses invest time, effort, and creativity into their brand. Yet effort alone does not guarantee attention or recall. Without distinct signals, even great brands can disappear into the background. But because nobody remembers them. In the modern marketplace, attention is fleeting, and competition is constant. If people cannot remember your brand later, they cannot choose it when the moment of decision arrives. Memory is the gateway to every purchase, and memory decides everything. Before a person chooses a product, their brain quickly scans what it already recognizes. Brands that exist in memory feel familiar and safe. Brands that don't exist in memory feel uncertain. If people don't remember you, your brand becomes invisible at the most important moment, the decision moment. The customer may have seen you before, but without recall, that interaction disappears. And when recall disappears, opportunity disappears with it. They can't choose you. Customers cannot choose what they cannot remember. When faced with multiple options, the brain naturally selects the brand that feels most familiar. Recognition quietly influences the outcome. Brand memory is psychological. The brain does not store brands the same way it stores facts. Instead, it stores patterns, emotions, and signals that are easy to recognize. The stronger these signals are, the easier the brand becomes to remember. The brain stores patterns. Humans are wired to recognize patterns quickly. Repeated visual cues, consistent messaging, and recognizable identity elements help the brain organize information. These patterns become mental shortcuts. Most brands look the same. One of the biggest problems in modern branding is sameness. When brands share similar visuals, language, and positioning, they blend together. And when everything looks similar, the brain stops paying attention. And sameness kills memory. Distinctiveness is what allows something to stand out in the mind. Without contrast, the brain has no reason to remember a brand. What feels ordinary quickly fades away. The brain filters information. Every day, people encounter thousands of marketing messages. To survive this overload, the brain filters aggressively. Only signals that feel important or different pass through the filter. It remembers what is different. Distinct signals capture attention and remain in memory longer. A brand that stands apart visually or conceptually becomes easier to recognize later. Difference creates memorability. Distinct brands create mental shortcuts. When a brand becomes recognizable, the brain forms a shortcut around it. Instead of analyzing the brand again from scratch, the brain recalls the stored impression. This shortcut speeds up decisions. Repetition builds recognition. Recognition grows when the same signals appear repeatedly over time. The brain begins to associate certain colors, visuals, and messages with the brand. Over time, recognition becomes automatic. Recognition builds familiarity. Familiar things feel easier to process. And when something feels easy to process, the brain interprets it as safe and trustworthy. Familiarity is the first step toward preference. Familiarity builds trust. The more often people encounter a consistent brand, the more comfortable they feel with it. Psychologists call this the mere exposure effect. Familiarity reduces uncertainty. Trust influences decisions. When customers face multiple options, they rarely evaluate every detail logically. Instead, the brain quickly leans toward the brand that feels most reliable. Trust simplifies the decision process. And decisions create sales. At the end of every marketing effort lies a single moment: the decision. If the brand has established trust and familiarity, that decision becomes easy. If not, hesitation appears. Memory is the bridge. Memory connects past exposure to future action. Without memory, marketing efforts reset to zero every time a customer encounters the brand. With memory, each interaction builds momentum. Between brand and purchase. The journey from awareness to purchase passes through recognition and trust. Brands that remain present in the customer's memory travel that path much faster. The connection becomes natural. Strong brands engineer memory. Memorable brands are not accidental. They intentionally design signals that are easy for the brain to recognize and recall. Identity, repetition, and positioning all contribute to this process. Clear identity creates recall. A strong identity gives the brain something simple and distinct to store. When the brand communicates clearly who it is and what it stands for, recall becomes effortless. Distinct positioning creates attention. Positioning answers the question of how a brand differs from everything else. When that difference is clear, people immediately understand the brand's role. Clarity captures attention. Consistency creates recognition. Consistency reinforces memory every time the audience encounters the brand. Each repetition strengthens the neural connection. Over time, recognition becomes instinctive. Recognition creates familiarity. Once recognition exists, the brand begins to feel familiar. Familiarity lowers the mental effort required to evaluate the brand, and reduced effort increases preference. Familiarity creates trust. The brain naturally trusts what it understands and recognizes. Familiar brands feel predictable and stable. Stability is one of the strongest signals of reliability. Trust creates preference. When people trust a brand, they stop searching endlessly for alternatives. The brand becomes the comfortable choice. Preference begins to form. Preference creates growth. When a brand consistently becomes the preferred option, growth follows naturally. Customers return, recommend, and interact more deeply. Momentum builds. Memorable brands win. The brands that succeed in the long term are the ones that stay in the mind. They become easy to recall, easy to recognize, and easy to trust. Memory turns awareness into influence. Forgettable brands disappear. In a crowded market, forgettable brands slowly fade away, not because they lack value, but because they lack memorability. And in the economy of attention, memory is power. If you want to understand the psychology behind branding, marketing, and why certain brands win while others disappear, follow this channel for more insights. Subscribe if you want to build brands that people actually remember, trust, and choose. Sivra, make it click, make it run.